For a long time, I was convinced that motivation was the secret to success. I'd wake up every morning, pumped up by some video, a powerful quote, or an inspiring speech that made me feel like I could conquer the world. I just had to feel it deeply enough, right? But then, a few days would pass, that initial spark would fizzle out, and I'd be right back where I started, feeling defeated. That's when I met Daniel. He was a quiet man who didn't talk much about success, but his entire life radiated it. He wasn't the richest person I knew, nor the smartest, but there was something about him, this calm, steady, unshakable presence. One day, I finally built up the courage to ask him, "How do you stay so consistent? Don't you ever just get tired and want to give up?" He smiled, a gentle, knowing smile. "Of course I do," he said. "But I don't rely on how I feel. I rely on what I promised myself." That single sentence, it hit me like a thunderbolt. It completely reframed everything I thought I knew about achievement. I started to see the real difference. Motivation is like a fire. It burns incredibly bright and feels amazing, but it burns out fast. Discipline, though. Discipline is like water. It flows quietly, almost unnoticeably, but over time, it has the power to shape mountains. Daniel shared his simple method with me. Every night before bed, he would write down just 3 things he had to do the next day. Not a long list of 10 overwhelming tasks. Not a perfectly color-coded planner, just 3. And no matter how tired, lazy, or uninspired he felt when he woke up, he would do them. Without negotiation. "It's not about being perfect," he explained. "It's about keeping promises to yourself, even when no one is watching." That was his secret. It wasn't about hype or emotion. It was about quiet, daily, unshakable self-discipline. So I decided to test it. I gave myself a 1-week challenge with a short list of non-negotiable actions. Wake up early, read 10 pages of a book, exercise for 15 minutes, and no phone for the first hour of the day. The first couple of days were a breeze. I was still riding that wave of motivation. But by day 3, every fiber of my being wanted to quit. I remember sitting on the edge of my bed one morning staring at the alarm clock screaming 5:30 a.m. My mind was begging, "Just go back to sleep. You deserve the rest." But Daniel S.'s words echoed in my head. "Do it because you said you would." So I got up. It wasn't a heroic moment. It wasn't exciting or dramatic. But it was a small victory, one that felt profoundly different from a motivational high. It wasn't a rush of energy. It was the quiet, solid strength of discipline. At first, I thought discipline meant restriction. I saw it as giving up freedom, forcing myself to do things I didn't want to do. But the deeper I got into this new routine, the more I realized I had it all wrong. True discipline is freedom, because when you finally gain control over your habits, you gain control over your life. When you learn to say no to the endless distractions, you're actually saying yes to your own progress. And when you show up every single day, especially on the days you don't feel like it, something fundamental starts to change inside you. You stop being a slave to your moods. You start depending on reliable systems you've built for yourself. And that's when your life quietly, almost magically, begins to shift in the right direction. About 2 months into this journey, I found myself back at the same coffee shop where I first spoke with Daniel. He walked in with that same calm smile and those same steady eyes. "How's the routine?" he asked. I laughed. "Harder than I expected," I admitted. "But it's working." He nodded, unsurprised. "Good. Most people quit because they think progress should feel exciting all the time. But real, meaningful progress often feels boring. The difference between average and exceptional isn't intensity, it's consistency." That was the moment it clicked. The people we admire, the top athletes, the brilliant artists, the visionary entrepreneurs, they aren't just running on fumes of motivation. They're running on the solid fuel of discipline. Here's the truth about discipline that nobody really talks about. It isn't glamorous. It's not the motivational speech that gets millions of views. It's the quiet, unseen moment you choose to go for a walk instead of endlessly scrolling on your phone. It's saying no to immediate comfort and yes to long-term growth over and over and over again. No one sees that part. The part where you wake up early and your mind whispers, "What's the point of all this?" The part where you study, practice, write, or build with no applause and no validation from anyone. But that is precisely where the transformation happens. In the silence. In the struggle. That's why the most disciplined people often seem so calm. They've learned to live without needing constant emotional highs. They've built habits that carry them through the inevitable lows. 6 months passed. I looked back and realized something remarkable. I wasn't necessarily working harder, but my life felt so much easier. The very same things that once felt impossible were now almost automatic. My mind wasn't constantly at war with itself anymore. The routine that once felt like a prison had become my source of freedom. And it wasn't just about productivity. It was about self-respect. Every time I kept a promise to myself, no matter how small, I built a little more trust within. And when you truly trust yourself, you stop chasing external validation. You don't need other people to tell you you're on the right track. You just know. That's when everything changes. A year later, I met Daniel again. We sat and talked about life, habits, and goals. He said something then that I will never forget. Discipline isn't about control, he said. It's about alignment. It's the practice of aligning your daily actions with your deepest purpose. In that moment, I understood. Self-discipline isn't a punishment you inflict on yourself. It's an act of self-respect in motion. It's how you tell yourself, every day, I matter enough to keep going, even when it's hard. So, if you're tired of starting over, if you're done chasing motivation that fades every week, I want you to stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for the perfect time or the perfect mood. Just pick one thing, one small, meaningful action, and commit to doing it every day, without exception. Because the truth is, the world doesn't reward those who start strong. It rewards those who stay consistent. Motivation builds moments, but discipline builds empires. And maybe one day someone will look at you the way I looked at Daniel, wondering how you stay so calm, so steady, so focused. And you'll smile, knowing the secret isn't in a quote or a speech or a spark of inspiration. It's in the quiet power of showing up every single day. Thank you so much for watching. If this resonated with you, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more content like this. I'll see you in the next one.